Looking for Rose, my co-chair, but there's so many little boxes. I lost her. Okay, there she is. Okay. So I think that we should just turn it over to our friends from ACF. But I'll say, as we do that, one thing to note is that we have folks who are, like I said, we have national funders and we have funders who are funders in places, including places where we know you have folks who might participate and places where you did not say that you have folks who are ready to participate. So it may be premature, but as you guys think about presenting or think about opportunities, I think we should think about how we spread the lessons, too. And with that, I will turn it over to Moshmi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to Shannon and Rose and Greg and April for your support. We're really excited to be able to share about the Tribal Early Learning Initiative and where there might be opportunities to partner with philanthropy. Can you see my screen? Okay. Okay. So the Tribal Early Learning Initiative came out of a lot of different work that we've been doing over the years, where it's become really clear that, tribal early childhood development programs are often operating in silos at the community level, and they have different funding sources and standards, regulations, different governance structures. And when we talk about tribal early childhood development programs, we're really talking about programs like Head Start, childcare, home visiting, preschool, tribally operated early childhood centers. So really the range of programs serving young children and families. But there are obviously many other programs in communities that are part of the early childhood system and may also be in silos and not working well and partnering with these early care and education programs. And so because of the different origins of these programs and their different standards and policies, this can often lead to conflicting policies and inconsistent quality, inconsistent accountability, and sometimes uneven investment at the tribal level, leading to, just a lot of what we've seen in some communities where there's really great quality differences between, for example, Head Start and childcare, because of the differences in resources, the differences in policies, and the lack of collaboration. And so in a more well-aligned system, programs would be more seamlessly integrated and be working together, collaborating to plan and make decisions to support young children and families. Also, to plan for coordination across services and to plan for really collaborative efforts that continue to align activities and support linkages. And so we've been hearing from tribal communities for many, many years that these are challenges that they've been experiencing, the lack of coordination, both at the federal level and the tribal community level, that's making it hard for them to develop really comprehensive early childhood systems. And so back in 2012, we launched the Tribal Early Learning Initiative, and it really came out of a site visit that our Deputy Assistant Secretary for Early Childhood Development at the time, Linda Smith, made to a tribal nation, where she visited a Head Start program and she visited a childcare program, and was really just shocked at the differences in the resources that each program had and their ability to provide safe and stimulating environments for children, and really felt like a lot of the reason for that was that they weren't talking to each other. They weren't talking about how they could work together to support children and families and really improve quality across their programs, rather than having so much disparity. And so she came back to ACF staff in the Office of Head Start, Childcare, and the Home Visiting Program, and really charged us with figuring out, is there something that we can do about this? And so we established a partnership between ACF and several American Indian tribes that have the American Indian, Alaska Native Head Start or Early Head Start programs, the Tribal Child Care and Development Fund or CCDF, and the Tribal Maternal Infant and Early Childhood Home Visiting or MICV, as well as any other programs serving young children and families. Um, and so the goals of the TELI were to support tribes and to coordinate tribal early learning and development programs, to create and support seamless, high quality early childhood systems, to really raise the quality of services to children and families, um, all young children and families, and then to break down barriers to collaboration. And that includes both real and perceived barriers to collaboration, because a lot of times the barriers are there because people don't understand each other's programs, and there's a lot of just assumptions that are made. And the way we did this in between 2012 and 2017, when we had 2 cohorts of TELI, is we provided small supplemental grants to tribes through the Tribal McVie program. And we also provided a really great deal of technical assistance and support, both from TA providers as well as federal staff. We were able to do things like joint site visits to the communities where the federal staff from all 3 programs were there to talk with the staff at the tribal level about what they wanted to accomplish and what we could do to make that easier for them. We also had in-person meetings where people could work in teams, but also share with their peers about the work that they were doing. And then just generally a great deal of technical assistance and opportunities for the tribes to connect with program staff and leadership at the federal level. And we had also a really just great collaboration at the federal level across our offices that kind of made this all possible. And so these were the 8 tribes that participated in the first 2 cohorts of the TELI. So you can see here it was a pretty diverse group of tribes from throughout the country, some small tribes, some large tribes, one tribal consortium. And overall, it was a really successful effort. We really saw deeper relationships and support and respect built across partners just by sitting down together, learning about each other, thinking about how they could work together. That led to a really solid foundation for expanding early childhood services in the community, and in many cases, improved quality of services to families with young children by really leveraging the strengths of all the programs in order to improve services. And then we also saw a great deal of progress with breaking down the barriers to collaboration and really thinking together about what their vision was for children and families at the community level. And so some specific activities that the tribes engaged in, and this was really completely driven by them. They had, we really put the respect for tribal sovereignty at the center of this, and really we provided tools and resources, but it was up to the tribes completely what they wanted to focus on with their projects. So some of them worked on creating a single tribal early learning program enrollment form or a more centralized intake system, selecting common assessment tools across programs to make it easier for families so that they didn't have to do multiple assessments with the same tool in different programs, and also to allow them to better track children over time and compare data across programs. Many of them engaged in joint professional development activities across the 3 programs and really thought about, what are the critical competencies and skills and knowledge that they wanted all early childhood program staff to have, and how they could work together to make that happen in a more coordinated way. We also had some invest in data systems to allow for better coordination and sharing of data across programs, and that also sometimes supported coordinated intake and referral systems in some of the communities. So there was a great deal of work that happened, a great deal of progress that was made in these communities. And I think Shannon shared with you a report from our first cohort of TELI that really talks about the work that those grantees did, and kind of how they perceived their future work. So just wanted to share some testimonials from some of the different TELI tribes. Um, so one of our colleagues talked about how important it was to be able to take time and think about the issues in the community with partners and really come together to think about how they wanted to address those issues. Another talked about that site visit that I mentioned, where federal staff visited the communities and talked about, really asked about what were the barriers, what were the policies that were making it harder for the tribe to meet their goals. And this really kind of led to, addressing some of those especially perceived barriers, and, figure out how to move forward with what they actually wanted to do. And then also just how the TELI, by kind of focusing on collaboration and giving people the time and space to come together, has led to a strong foundation. And, this particular tribe has really expanded the work to, serve, to include partners, in addition to childcare, Head Start, and home visiting, that are serving children across the prenatal to 8-year-old continuum. So we were really excited this year, or I guess last year, we started this process of really thinking about how we could do another version of this. Since the Tribal Early Learning Initiative ended in 2017, we've had a great deal of continued interest from tribes. We've heard from tribal leaders in nation-to-nation consultation and in many different venues about the continued issues they're having with collaboration and coordination across tribal early childhood programs, and how they would like opportunities and supports to be able to do this kind of work moving forward. And so last year, we started talking about how could we do this again, and really expand what we're doing. And so we were able to really think through what are the different activities and resources that are there in the tribal early childhood programs that could be leveraged for this. So what we actually decided to do was to work through the Tribal Child Care and Development Fund, CCDF program, which in the past few years has received an enormous increase in the amount of resources going to tribal communities, including just absolutely massive increases that were part of the American Rescue Plan Act. And so one of the things we were thinking about is, like, if we could give tribes really support to use these funds in a way that would actually help them advance the goals that they have for their tribe around early childhood development and early childhood system building. And so the TELI opportunity is leveraging the tribal CCDF funds. We've issued guidance in the form of an information memorandum that really outlines how CCDF resources, including the COVID supplemental funds, can be used to support the TELI activities. And there's just a whole list of activities in that IM that they could use the funds for. And so then we made an opportunity available to all tribal CCDF grantees to basically apply to participate in the TELI. And there were a couple things they could apply to do. One was they could apply to participate in an intensive 3-year TELI collaborative, which would sort of mirror what we did in the past with the small cohorts working together with intensive technical assistance. We also had 49 tribes. The 7 are part of the 49, but we had another 42 tribes that are participating in what we're calling the TELI network, which is basically tribes that indicated they wanted to use their CCDF funds to support early childhood system building activities, but weren't as interested in the intensive TA, but would like some light touch guidance on collaboration across their programs. And so we are now getting ready to launch the TELI, both the TELI network and the TELI collaborative, in the next couple months. And we are working out in our office, in the Office of Early Childhood Development, and Eva Carter introduced herself. She's going to be the TELI coordinator, or she is the TELI coordinator for ACF, and is really going to be working directly with especially the TELI collaborative tribes. And we're also going to be having support from the Office of Child Care's Tribal Child Care Capacity Building Center, as well as partners from other TA centers and our partners in the Office of Head Start, Office of Child Care, and Tribal Home Visiting programs. So the TELI Collaborative, as I mentioned, it's a 3-year, more intensive TA opportunity that's really focused on individual supports to tribes, really in-depth technical assistance, as well as opportunities for peer learning and collaboration to help them achieve their goals. And these are the 7 tribes that have submitted to and been approved to participate in the TELI Collaborative. And you can see they're in a wide variety of different states, and again, different sizes of tribes. We're really excited to work with them, and they are all just like ready to go and really excited about the work. And partnering across their early childhood programs, and really getting started with building these stronger early childhood systems. And so we're hoping to launch, as I said, in the next couple months, this TELI Collaborative, and really getting that technical assistance started. And so as we're approaching the TELI Collaboratives, we're really leading with some guiding principles. First, that as with the first TELI cohorts, that we're really grounded in a recognition of tribal sovereignty, and that they are going to be, developing tribally driven solutions, and building on their own cultural language and traditional practices as they would like to. We also want to support, think about how these partnerships can support positive experiences, nurturing relationships for children, and connectedness for all children and families. We want to support the TELI Collaborative tribes to operate in the communities as a network where they're building relationships across their 3 programs and working together with children and families at the center of their work, and as partners. We want to support the TELI collaborative tribes to think about how to engage families throughout implementation and planning of the TELI, and really thinking about supporting family connections, family well-being, and families as advocates, leaders, and learners. And then finally, we're hoping that we may be able to do some work and provide some supports to each member of each tribe's TELI team, so the different program administrators that are part of that, to build their leadership skills and experience personal growth through this opportunity. And Eva has worked with what was called the Child Care Peer Learning and Leadership Network, which has been a tribal CCDF project that has really been about building leaders in the childcare field. And they have really had incredible success with supporting leadership skills and personal growth. So we're hoping to kind of learn from those lessons and incorporate that into the work as well. So the technical assistance that we're planning, first, we are hoping to convey some foundational knowledge and really get folks thinking about some of the key concepts that I reviewed in the previous slide. So some different, I guess, frameworks that we really would like to share with these tribes about is, one is the Indigenous Connectedness Framework, which some of you may be familiar with. We want to really focus on relationships at the center of the work. And so there are several different frameworks there, the network theory, relational worldview, and early relational health that we'd like to introduce to these cohorts. We'd like to really talk about positive childhood experiences and promoting those experiences and building on the healthy outcomes for positive experiences, the HOPE framework. And then finally, we really would like to support strong family and community engagement, which many of these programs have been doing in their communities for a long time, but thinking about how to support that as they, really build their collaboration and their systems. We plan to support each tribe individually to help them think about how they want to apply the foundational knowledge to their collaborative work and develop their own plans for how they would like to improve services for young children and families. We plan to have teaching and resources and tools to support all aspects of the work, peer-to-peer sharing during cohort calls and webinars and annual meeting. And then we're also hoping that we will be able to do federal site visits as we did with the past cohorts of TELI, because we found those to be really impactful. So this is just a snapshot of kind of what we're hoping for the next 3 years. So you'll see at the top the focus of the technical assistance really, in the first year. So really soon we're wanting to orient people to TELI, provide that foundational knowledge we talked about, and then really focus on forming their teams, building relationships, thinking about their vision, their goals, and what they'd like to do as their project, and then developing a work plan by the end of the first year. And then in years 2 and 3, really focusing on implementing the work plan and thinking about sustainability and sharing their progress. So we plan to have all collaborative gatherings, a monthly webinar in year 1, and then less frequently in years 2 and 3. We're also hoping to be able to do an annual meeting, at least virtually. And then we'll have a great deal of targeted technical assistance. So we'll meet with each individual TELI team twice a year. So that includes all of the programs in that community that are part of the TELI team. Each TELI collaborative tribe will have a TELI lead, and so we'll be meeting with a cohort of them, all 7, on a quarterly basis. And then we will also have one-on-one calls with each TELI lead, as well, with EVA and RTA provider on a regular basis to provide some of that individualized support. And then we will also provide individualized TA as needed on the projects that they're working on, and making sure that they are making progress and have the supports they need. And then, as I mentioned, we're hoping to be able to do federal site visits. So in the collaborative applications, we saw several different types of activities named by the tribes as things they might potentially want to focus on. Some of them talked about a common application for services, building family plans across programs, having a community-wide first 2,000 days initiative, and really supporting comprehensive holistic services for children and families. Some folks were really thinking about how to braid funding to provide wraparound services. There was a lot of discussion of reducing service duplication and increasing efficiency, and then finally developing comprehensive service plans that really build on family engagement principles. So we're really excited about the TELI, and we feel like we have a really good sort of plan, and that we'll be able to provide great support to the tribes. And as I said, they're really excited, and I think have some wonderful strengths and resources that they'll be able to bring to the work. But the reason we wanted to talk with you all today is that we felt like there could be opportunities for philanthropy to build on what ACF is already doing and really make this as successful an effort as possible. And so there were several ways that we were thinking about that philanthropy could support the work that we're doing and really supplement the work that we're doing, so that we can maximize the success of the TELI and also be able to tell the story of what's been learned. So first, I mentioned that we want to have an annual meeting, and right now we would probably only have the ability to do like a virtual meeting on an annual basis, but there could be opportunities to work together to support an in-person convening on an annual basis, including logistical support and content and development and paying for the cost of travel for the TELI teams. Another thing that could be really impactful is to help tell the story of TELI. So engaging in activities to learn about what's happening in the tribes, developing reports about what's happening and thinking about different dissemination strategies so that we can share these successes and lessons learned from the TELI efforts. We also have there could be opportunities to provide additional expertise, really bring in expert consultants that would be available to the TELI collaborative tribes, depending on what their projects and focuses are. There may be, it may be helpful to be able to bring in some experts to work with them. And then finally, I think there could be a possibility of providing some additional funding to each collaborative tribe, really in the form of flexible mini grants to support their efforts and really maximize their success. Obviously, they are going to be using their CCDF resources to support these efforts, but as always, there are restrictions on what those resources can be used for. And also, there just may be some creative things that they would like to do that some additional flexible funds might be helpful for them to do. So those were just some ideas that we kind of talked through with Shannon and Greg and team as ways that philanthropy could support the TELI work that's already happening, but certainly would be open to other ideas for collaboration if you all have them. So that's, I guess now just would love to hear from you all and answer any questions that you may have and get a sense of what some collaboration possibilities might be. So Shannon, do I turn it over to you?
Well, let's turn it over for questions. I'll try to help you watch for hands and unmuting. They will just do open-ended. Okay, Malia, go ahead.
Thank you, Moshmi. It's really exciting to learn about. I'm excited about the work alongside with you. I had a couple of questions. The first is whether I'm curious, as my chat question, about the 42 tribes who will be part of the network. And I'm wondering if there are any thoughts or want to learn more about what light touch engagement and support would be, thinking about some of us on the call who have regional focuses and the 7 tribes that are doing a deep dive may not be in our regional areas. So curious about what engagement or opportunities to support the other 42 in ways that are right for them might be. That was one question. And the other is, you talked about it's so great that this is leveraging the CCDF funds and that there are guardrails about what those funds could be used for. And I can also imagine our board being interested in, as the learning from TELI points out, what may be federally imposed barriers to collaboration, what the pathways for regulatory or guidance changes on the federal side might be, as a scale mechanism for tribes that may not have chosen to participate, just to give them more flexibility in ways that support collaboration across the board.
Sure. So I'll start with your second question. I think, like I said, one of the parts of TELI that's been really important is that it's not just about like telling the tribes at the community level that they should collaborate across these programs, but we are also actively collaborating at the federal level across the Office of Child Care, the Office of Head Start, and tribal home visiting programs, and really thinking about what are things that we can do to make it easier for tribes to do the work that they want to do. So some of the things that we've been thinking about and have really even started working on already. We know that in many cases, there's a lot of construction and facilities work happening in tribal communities. And if there's a way for us to coordinate better across our offices to make it easier for tribes to do these projects in a way that benefits their whole communities and may also, leverage different funding streams. So that type of thing. Also like thinking about, better guidance for braiding different funding streams. And I think just generally, like one of the things with the first TELI is we were able to provide some better cost allocation guidance to some of the tribes to help them think about how they wanted to work together. So there's a lot of different things that we know already that we are going to need to be doing in the coming years, but then also certainly would be open to hearing more from as these projects go on about the issues that they're facing and if there are specific actions that we could take at the federal level to address those. For the tribes that are part of the network, I think we're still kind of thinking through what that light touch engagement will look like. We know that we would certainly make the tools and resources that are going to be developed for the collaborative available to other tribes if they want to use them in their communities. We may also do webinars on occasion on different topics for those tribes. And then the Tribal Childcare Capacity Building Center will be having one of their TA focuses on early childhood systems. So they'll be able to provide group and individualized support to tribes as needed to carry out those activities. But I don't know, Eva, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so the tribes have to write a 3-year plan for theirs to receive their CCDF funding, and they're in the process of that right now. They have an extension through January 31st to submit those plans. Part of that plan talks about coordination, collaboration, and I think any information we can give them as they're writing those plans to help them think through what that might look like for them as they implement their CCDF funding. We'll have the opportunity to do that and have a broader group to talk to as well as the network. I'm excited about the construction. I think we can come together and look at early childhood centers instead of a lot of money for Head Start and a lot of money for childcare buildings. Let's see how we can, bring this together. But yeah, we're in the process right now of working with OCC to do those formal notifications. Each of those 49 tribes had to submit into a big platform, and all of that has to be pulled down and letters sent out. And so we certainly are learning at the federal level what it takes to partner. And we've had our own glitches, just time and communication. And, we keep saying, though, if we can't do this here, then we cannot expect the tribes to do it at the local level. So we're taking each one of these hurdles and figuring it out and in the process of doing that. So it's been really helpful to think through that as well. And I will get those 49 tribes. I think I have to wait until they get their formal letter from OCC, but happy to share the other 42 Zavar. So thanks.
So even Moshmi, would it be accurate to say that this, we could have an ongoing engagement where it's more clear what will be happening with the 7, but then as you guys get ready for the 42 and you kind of think about what that looks like, we could stay in touch. I'm also thinking about the plans. I know in the past that ACF has struggled to analyze and produce reports of what was in those plans. And in fact, I think somebody gave a private grant to get that done, or somebody raised money for a private grant to get that done last time, and it was to a non-Indigenous organization. I'd rather see it go to an Indigenous-led organization, but it seems like I don't know, there might be additional things like that crop up, right? Mm-hmm. You've been so concrete and said, okay. Mm-hmm. It looks like Almokar was next, but I think he was tagging on to the previous question and put it in the chat. So I am going to go to Anita, whose hand was up.
Thank you. I was just typing in the chat. I have so many questions. our model is that we work deeply with 18 tribes, and we make 5-year commitments to work deeply with those 18 tribes. In the first 2 cohorts, you had 2 of our tribes that we work with that we're but unfortunately in this next list, none of our 18 tribes are in that list. So I also am interested in the 42 tribes, and so the cohort 1 and 2, is there anything going on with any continuing work with those tribes? Yes. So, so we would like to be supportive, especially of the 2 tribes that we have agreements with, that would want to support their ongoing involvement with TELI. And then the other comment, one of my staff was saying that, you know, Casey has, let's see, Casey has data, and I can't find her comment now. We have data and a data advocacy team. We have a knowledge management team who might be helpful in helping you analyze the data, or doing, you know, those nice little reports that are nice to have about a project like this that could include data. Just thinking about how we could be supportive. So
Great.
that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. We hadn't really talked about in-kind support, so that's helpful. Mary Louise?
Well, I put my question and my thought in the chat, which was just that I would want to explore what it would look like for Oregon Community Foundation to be a partner that was involved targeting our investment. We have to make grants benefit Oregon regions and Oregonians. So that's just something that we can explore more, what that would look like. Maybe if there are tribes in the larger group that are not part of the focus cohort, maybe there could be ways to bring them all together, or maybe there is some sort of leverage of the support for the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla. So we can talk more in the future as this takes shape, but I'm interested.
Great.
Thank you.
And most of me, one thing I think, Aniva, so in terms of the opportunity to make direct grants to the participating tribes, we haven't really, we're not determining, right? Like, we're assuming that some folks probably have funding relationships or could make funding relationships directly with those nations and wouldn't need an entity to pass through. But we'd highly encourage that people need to adhere to the values you put forward, including tribal sovereignty, which might challenge some foundations if they have a lot of reporting and outcomes and certain things that go with their money, right? So, we're also open to helping people find more flexible pathways, but we haven't gotten one way settled to do that. Chrisanne had a question about preschool development grants. I think you guys are probably a good team to answer that.
Yeah, so the preschool development grants, unfortunately, are only available to states and territories. And so there are many of the PDG Birth to 5 grantees, the states, that are working very closely with tribes in their communities. But it does vary across states. But yeah, some of them have done a lot to provide support directly to tribes in a lot of their activities. I don't know if anybody's doing something, exactly similar to the TELI work. I know some of them provided funding to tribes or tribal organizations to do their own needs assessment work as part of the needs assessment and strategic planning process in the first year of the PDG grants. yeah, so there is some great work happening, but unfortunately, the funding cannot go directly to tribes to do their own work and really drive the process themselves, which is what we're hoping the TELI will really allow them to do.
All right, so Anita, you're saying that your model is more, it's focused on
Like
essentially
technical
all kinds of
assistance.
TA activities with the tribe. So I'm reading the chat. I don't, if I missed a question, then please let me know. Okay, here. Malia also has, Malia, why don't you just say it? It's quicker than me reading it.
Yeah, that was a good PDG question. And I'm just curious about whether these dollars can be used for tribes to set collaborative tables between tribes and state and local ECE, non-tribal, on the ground, or whether it's strictly across the tribal programs.
No, I think they can decide who they want their partners at the table to be. And in
Okay.
fact, one of the tribes in the first cohorts of TELI, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, they really brought in their partners from the county pretty significantly into their TELI efforts. And they had a lot of connection. I guess the state was funding county activities around early childhood systems coordination. And so they were building on that activity and really engaging those partners as well in the work that they were doing to benefit their own community on the reservation. So I think there definitely is the possibility to engage with a lot of partners. And of course, the states are required to engage tribes, you know, in their planning processes. In the CCDF program in particular, there's like specific legislative and regulatory requirements that they coordinate with tribes at the tribes, you know, if they want to, I guess. So that I think a lot of states are doing that work too. Eva?
Yeah, this isn't directly related to that, but we're waiting for one more tribe to come in for the collaborative. They're in the process of writing up their statement of commitment right now, and that's the San Felipe tribe. They have not been notified, so informally or anything like that. But I think what we're going to see there is they're very close in proximity to the Santo Domingo tribe, and we're hoping to take a look at bringing two tribes together to coordinate. Since they're close together, they serve each other's children and various things like that. So that might be a new twist to this that I think could be pretty exciting too, to see how they can work with other tribes in their own geographical area.
And our friends from New Mexico aren't on today, but they're real leaders in this group from Los Alamos National Laboratory, Lanel Foundation, and Brendel Foundation. And Lanel is also where Giovanna Archuleta, I think the first Deputy Assistant Secretary of Indigenous Early Childhood in New Mexico, has worked. And so I would just say we should be sure, and we'll loop back with them too, because they have funded some similar work to this on their own with 8 pueblos. So we definitely want to map if any of the pueblos you'll be working with this in this have participated in their efforts with 8 pueblos, where the pueblos wrote their own early childhood plans with support from different foundations. So I think Lanel mainly, but. So Moshimi and Eva and Rose, I think we hear a lot of interest. I think we hear a lot of geographically based interest, but I imagine while it's like difficult in this environment, we'll have some national foundations that might be interested in sponsoring either the research and storytelling and communications part, which I think is part of trying to reach out to a broader group of let people know what's going on. Maybe the convening. So what do we think in terms of folks should communicate with? Do you want them to communicate with you directly? Rose, go ahead, take it away.
Oh no, I was just unmuting myself. That's all. I'm just very excited about the level of interest from the group and meeting this morning.
And I mean, you guys who come to ECFC regularly know that we do like not creating a pitching culture where every time somebody comes onto one of our things, they're getting pitched an initiative is sort of key to our sort of like our unofficial bylaws. But this really fits squarely in public-private partnership, which is a really key value also of ECFC, and in terms of equity, meaning if we're ever going to blur lines toward a pitch, one that we think will really remediate some inequities and lean on public-private partnership is like right in our sweet spot. So, you know, we actually won't be shy about following up with you and other people by email to be like, do you want to participate? Do you want to like think about how you could support this? Because we think it is right squarely in what ECFC has done over the years. I think Mary Louise is maybe our longest term participant. Hopefully you would endorse that idea that that's kind of where our sweet spot is. And same with that, with the growth, right? I can't speak for you, Rose, but it seems like being a bridge between philanthropy and tribal nations is a key part of your mission.
Absolutely. And I can put my email in the chat and anybody can reach out to me and our not executive director, but our vice president of special projects and engagement, Greg Maston. So I'll go ahead and put those in the chat and feel free to reach out to me with any interest or any questions you may have.
All right, Moshmi and Eva, we'll give you the last word. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, just wanted to thank you all for your interest, for being here and taking the time to learn about this. And we really hope that there may be some opportunities to collaborate and really maximize the success of these tribes. So thank you for being here.
And my final words are, when we started working all of this and knew we were going to coordinate with CCDF and their plans and all of that, I personally, Moshmi may have, I personally had no idea we'd get 49 tribes. It just was like, oh my gosh, we got 49 tribes, and excuse me. And so that makes it so exciting to me that that many people are interested in this. And really, you know, we go back to the main reason we're doing this, for the children and the families. And so those kids won't be moved around from place to place to place, transition to transition. Hopefully we can do something to help them be able to stay in the same location, and the families be able to navigate all of these different services. So if we can do all of that, I think we will be successful. So we're excited.
All right, so we'll follow up with y'all, and everybody have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.